So we just stepped out of LG C5 launch event MWC in Barcelona. They kind of brought a lot to the table, had a lot to show.
They really did run the gamut in some very strange ways. So I mean, really the most important part of the G5, which is their new flagship smartphone, is that it's a modular device. So you can slot things in and out of them. And I guess by things, I should use the term LG prefers, which is friends.
Right. I mean, that was some crazy sort of, I mean, they always do this. They always have some sort of gimmicky names and stuff. But friends is kind of, it's equally daft and equally apt.
Yeah, there's a one point in, let's call it a frankly ridiculous sort of demo where a gentleman says, you know, with friends like these, like you'll never need friends for the rest of your life, which struck me as very sad.
Right. This is like you feel enthused about the product, but then realize what a hollow life you have. Right.
But anyway, the friends themselves. What was your favorite?
It's because there's a few that we're going to talk about them all, but let's start with Robot, because that to me makes no sense.
No sense.
Right, it's just this like sphere thing that looks like BB-8. I want to say BB-9, I don't know, one of those.
BB-8, you're right the first time.
And, but without the cool bit on top. It's just like a stereotype ball thing. You can roll it around, control it. It's got a camera, laser. It's kind of a cat annoying
It's probably the most perfect cat annoyance tool I've ever seen in an MWC, which is saying something.
But it doesn't make any sense, because who was asking for that is sort of what we were thinking, right? But
really reluctant pet owners, people afraid that people would break into their house and steal things.
Other interesting stuff, so semi-drone related, we'll talk about, which is they also did a drone controller.
Yeah, the smart controller, which it's a fascinating concept. Basically, as you've said before, I think, it looks sort of like a 90s flip phone, but you do most of your control using this sort of dial thing in the middle. And I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how that sort of relates into three-dimensional motion.
But they were saying they're trying to get away from this sort of enthusiast was the word I think they used. A drone flyer that's kind of head down with the sticks. So now you can have this kind of device and fly it around like this, right?
Also surprisingly attractive as far as controllers go.
Right, for sure. And then they're doing a collaboration with Parrot, so that's the kind of connection, I think, isn't it? So why would LG make a drone controller, right? So they're doing it with Parrot, which is a kind of a good collaboration. I think in terms of drones, Parrot is the sort of similar market for someone who might buy an LG phone. I don't know. Interesting idea to wheel out with the G5. But there was more stuff. There photography stuff, a whole bunch of that.
Right. The camera on the G5 is actually quite impressive on its own. But let's slot stuff into this device. They've released something called the LG Cam Plus, which basically, in addition to adding a bit of battery to the phone, acts as a physical control. So it's a grip, it has a jog dial for zooming in and out, it's got a two-stage shutter button. I've played with it a bit, it's really quite nice. Can't pass judgment on the camera yet, because obviously I haven't pulled them off a device to play with, but surprisingly impressive. But there's a lot more to it as well. So putting video and photography aside, there's the whole music angle too. And you're a bit of a music man.
Well, they did, correct me if I'm wrong, they did two things. So they've done a collaboration with Bang & Olufsen.
Yes.
Explain that.
So they've worked on a DAC. You can plug this into the LG G5, or you can use it as a standalone unit for an Android phone, an iPhone, a Mac, or a PC. Basically, it outputs 32-bit audio based off of existing sources. So if you're listening to Spotify or YouTube, it'll upsample that to 32-bit. You're giving me this look like...
Because we were talking about this before, how we don't really understand I mean, if you're listening to Spotify, which maybe it could be 128K compressed sort of thing, they're kind of upscaling it in a similar way, I suppose, that TVs are meant to upscale like a YouTube video to 4K screen or something like this. And you kind of get mixed results for that. So I'm interested to see how that will work with the audio.
Right.
And also who's asking for 32-bit audio anyway. I mean, they already does 24-bit audio, which is more than enough bits.
I mean, the way you look at it, if you're not asking for 32-bit audio, no one needs 32-bit audio.
And there's probably like a small slice of people that are like fist pumping when they heard this. Like there's a certain type of person who's kind of going to be really into this, but it's an interesting idea nonetheless. I think that's really what LG's been doing today, is ideas. Right.
And speaking of devices that only certain people want, we got to talk about that VR headset.
Right. This is to me, it's one of the most interesting things that they've done. Only because VR headsets for mobile, like we've seen them all before, right? So the LG itself has already did like a sort of one where you slide your phone in, right? Similar to the Gear. Right.
So LG had one with like a Google Cardboard type thing with the G3 way back when.
This is not that.
Totally different.
Right. This is like they tried to make out that there were sassy, like funky, cool looking glasses. They're a lot smaller than your average VR phone headset, and they kind of, you wear them like glasses rather than like a strap over your head and stuff like that. So those ideas are really cool, but it also is kind of weird, right?
Right, but that's that's really, I think, been LG's philosophy in this, right? Because if you look at the numbers, LG has not cracked the top 5 biggest selling mobile brands globally. And I don't think they have been for a while. So they really needed to pull out all the stops and create something that was going to get people talking. And look at what we're doing right now.
I mean, this is true, and this is definitely the theme of the day, because to go with the VR headset, for example, is the VR camera, the VR 360, some imaginative title like this. And it's just one of these sort of hold up and it take a 360 picture of everything. But they did a collaboration with Google Street View, so some of these photos curated will go up onto Street View, I believe.
Yes, and also in their original high resolution.
Right, 60
so
megapixels.
you're not losing anything if you're looking at this on LG's VR headset or ostensibly a Gear VR or a cardboard machine. We're not going to talk about those.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because like they had this friends concept, which we were a bit dubious about, but I like the idea that they've done a suite of gadgets that kind of work together and you can take the phone in whichever direction you want. If you're into drones, it's a phone for you. If you're into audio, so on.
So it's safe to say you're pretty excited about LG at this point.
Yeah, I kind of am. I mean, it's just nice to see, refreshing, I think is the word, to see someone, a company do something like a bit daring, I suppose, a bit risky.
Right.
We kind of go to a lot of these things and they do these state releases. Oh, it's got 4 more megapixels and all this.
Right.
It's incremental stuff. So LG just kind of blew all that away and tried something else. So we're going to be at Samsung tonight.
There we are.
Which is the interesting thing because that's probably the most direct rival, I suppose.
I refer to them as, I refer to LG rather as Samsung's eternal rival. If you look at the numbers again, really not the case.
Right.
But
we've got to see whether Samsung's going to do something equally or they're going to play it safe.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Right, we'll find out later.